I don't remember the last night Jason actually slept. I remember the last night he pretended to. That's the night in the woods I'm going to tell you about. If you've ever watched someone stay awake for so long that something else starts looking out through their eyes, maybe this will feel familiar. If you haven't, I hope you never do. Because the thing that found him out there, it doesn't want you dead. It wants you exhausted. It wants you worn down, thought by thought, until you're too tired to notice when it stops standing outside your tent and starts standing inside your skin. We were 17 and stupid in that very specific 90 seconds way. No smartphones, no GPS, just a folded map that never wanted to refold the same way twice. A beat-up red Chevy with one working speaker and a cooler full of cheap soda and gas station snacks. It was late August, the kind of heat that sticks to the back of your neck, and school was a month away. Colleges, applications, the rest of your life. So obviously, the very mature response was, let's go vanish in the woods for a weekend and pretend none of that exists. It was Tyler, May, Jason, Brandon, and Kelly. If you put the four of us in a lineup, you'd think Jason was the normal one. Tall, kind of lanky, the kind of boy who always had a baseball cap nearby even if he didn't play. Not the loudest, not the funniest. The one adults liked, the one teachers trusted to carry test papers to the office because he never peeked at the answers. He'd always been a light sleeper, he said. He didn't mention he'd stopped being any kind of sleeper at all. Not at first. The national park looked like every postcard you've ever seen of pure American wilderness. Endless pines, crooked trunks, the sky broken into puzzle pieces by branches. The ranger station was a squat brown building with fly-specked windows and faded posters about fire safety taped crookedly on corkboards. Last chance to turn back, Brandon said in his best horror movie voice as we parked. Cell service dies past this point. Legend says if you scream, only raccoons can hear you. Relax, Kelly said, shoving his shoulder. If you get lost, the forest will just return you because you're annoying. They bickered their way through the door. I followed, map in hand. Jason lagged behind. It was a small detail, the kind you skate past if you're not looking for it. While we were joking, he was just blinking, slow, like every time his eyes closed, he had to drag them open again. Dude, you okay? I asked, holding the door. Yeah, he smiled, one corner of his mouth not quite keeping up with the other. Didn't sleep great. I'll be fine. Coffee exists. The ranger behind the desk looked like he'd grown out of the floorboards. Sun-browned skin, deep lines at the corners of his eyes, a mustache that belonged in a 70 Seconds movie. You kids here for a sight? He asked, glancing at our cooler, our tent bags, the general aura of chaos. Yes, sir, Kelly said, stepping forward with that A-student politeness she could turn on like a light. Backcountry if possible, away from the RVs. He slid a clipboard across the desk. You know the rules out there? We chorused the usual stuff. Pack in, pack out. No fires outside rings. Don't feed wildlife. Tell someone where you're going. He nodded, eyes skimming over each of our faces like he was taking inventory. When his gaze hit Jason, he paused. Long drive? The ranger asked. Jason blinked like he'd been caught daydreaming. Yeah, left before sunrise. The ranger's eyes dipped to Jason's hands resting on the counter, fingers tapping in an uneven rhythm. Not anxious, not bored, just constant, like a telegraph sending a message under the surface. Don't stay up too late, the ranger said, voice suddenly sharper. Forest does strange things to tired minds. It was the kind of line you expect on a campground brochure, printed over a picture of a peaceful sunset. We laughed it off, signed the sheet, took the little paper permit and the directions to a backcountry site about 2 miles in by the creek. I didn't realize until later that the ranger had only written down 3 names. The trail into the woods started as a clear dirt path, wide enough for us to walk 2 abreast. Roots looped through the soil like knuckles, Cicadas shrieked somewhere up in the canopy, a constant electric buzz. Brandon carried the tent. Kelly had the food. Jason carried the small camp stove and his overstuffed pack. I had the map and tried to look like I knew how to read it. Left at the fork, I muttered. Then straight until we hit the creek. Left? You sure? Brandon said. The right looks more worn. Right goes back toward the RV sites, Kelly said, peering over my shoulder. Left is what he said. Jason said nothing. His eyes flicked from tree to tree like he was cataloging them. You okay back there, man? I asked after the fourth time I heard him stumble on nothing. I'm good, he said. Just feel like I've seen this tree before. He tapped the trunk with his knuckles. It was a joke. It had to be. We'd only been walking 30 minutes. We reached the campsite in the late afternoon. It was perfect in that rugged, brochure way, flat clearing, ring of stones for a fire pit, old logs just right for sitting on, the creek whispering a few yards away. Behold, Brandon declared, dropping the tent bag. Our kingdom. Your kingdom smells like feet, Kelly said. Move, I'm setting up. We fell into the easy rhythm of camp. Tent stakes, sleeping bags, unrolling mats, swatting at mosquitoes. For a while, the world narrowed to small tasks. No future, no past. Just here, just now, just this. Jason helped, but slower than usual. When he bent to hammer a stake, his hand trembled. You really didn't sleep last night? I asked quietly, while Brandon and Kelly argued about where to put the cooler. Night before that, he said. You mean, I frowned. You mean you've been up since Wednesday, he said. It was Friday. I laughed, because that's what you do when someone says something that sounds like a joke. He didn't laugh with me. I try, he said, eyes on the pine needles. I lie there. I close my eyes. My body does that heavy thing, but right when I get to the edge, it's like there's something there, waiting. And if I go all the way down, it'll get closer. The skin between my shoulder blades prickled. Dude, I said, you could have stayed home. Disaster camping with us isn't worth a psychotic break. He shrugged. Sleepless at home, sleepless with you idiots. At least if I go crazy out here, I get a better view. He said it lightly. He didn't mention that the skin under his eyes was already bruised purple, that his pupils looked a little too wide, even in the daylight. We built a fire as the sky went violet. In the 90 seconds, there was a specific kind of magic to being outside after dark. No glow of phones in hands, no scrolling. Just flame, faces, and the sense that the world beyond the circle of light had teeth. The fire popped. Sparks climbed the air like desperate stars. Brandon was telling some story about a guy he knew who swore he saw a bear on this trail once, the size of a minivan. Kelly groaned whenever he exaggerated, which meant she was groaning a lot. Jason sat across from me, hands held out to the heat but not really looking at the flames. His gaze kept flicking out into the trees, not like he thought he heard something, like he was listening for something to answer. Hey, I said, chucking a pine cone at him lightly. Earth to Insomniac, you in there? He blinked, slow, turned his head just a little too late. Yeah, just tired. Kelly eyed him. How tired? He looked at her. For a second too long. You ever stay up so long the world gets thin? He asked quietly. Like when you're a kid and you press your ear against a wall and you can hear the pipes, the humming, the stuff under everything. Brandon snorted. That's called drugs, man. Jason didn't even crack a smile. At night, he continued, when it gets really quiet, I can hear something under the quiet, like someone walking very far away, but not on the street, not anywhere I recognize, just in the dark. The fire snapped, a little louder than before. Okay, I said, trying to turn it into a joke because my skin was starting to crawl. No more black coffee for you. I haven't had coffee, he said. His eyes looked reflective in the firelight, dark, glassy. I haven't had anything, he added. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. My body feels like it's waiting for something else to catch up. The woods pressed in around us. Something in the back of my head whispered, "The ranger told us not to get too tired out here." I threw another log on the fire just to have something to do with my hands. Kelly tried to steer it away. "You'll crash tonight," she said firmly. "Fresh air, long hike. You'll finally knock out. You'll feel like crap tomorrow, but at least you'll have slept, right?" Jason's gaze slid past her, toward the black gap between two trees. "Maybe," he said. He didn't sound convinced. We should have noticed what happened around midnight. Looking back, that's where I marked the line. The before and the after. We'd all crawled into the tent, still smelling like smoke and pine sap. Brandon knocked out first, snoring like an old truck. Kelly lay on her back, mumbling about constellations she couldn't see through the canvas. Eventually, her breathing evened out. I lay there, eyes closed, listening to the forest. Night bugs, the creek's soft shush, the tree branches whispering against each other, and under it so faint I could have written it off as my own pulse. A second rhythm, like footsteps, far away, crunch, pause, crunch. I told myself it was another camper, or a deer, or my imagination. Sleep came for me like a heavy blanket. The last thing I remember is the glow-in-the-dark numbers on my cheap watch, 12:07 a.m. The next thing I remember is waking up in the dark and knowing, absolutely knowing, Jason was sitting up. I couldn't see him clearly. The coals outside had burned low. The tent was just vague shapes and the rise and fall of sleeping bags. But I could feel it. Someone was upright, awake, listening. "Jason," I whispered. Silence. For a moment, I thought I'd dreamed it and was about to lie back down. Then his voice came quietly from somewhere to my right, but it didn't sound like Jason. "Not exactly. Go back to sleep, Ty," he said. The words were measured, flattened out. "You'll need it." A shiver ice picked down my spine. "How long have you been awake?" I whispered. A pause. "Too long. Since," he said slowly, like he was choosing each word from a shelf, "before you closed your eyes." "You mean tonight? Or just sleep?" he said again. "It's almost here." I swallowed. My mouth was dry. "What is?" I asked. He didn't answer. Outside, the forest held its breath. The bugs had gone silent. Even the creek sounded muffled, like someone had turned the volume down on the world. I lay there, feeling the thin nylon between me and whatever else the dark contained, listening to Jason breathe. Except, I realized, after what could have been a minute or an hour, I couldn't hear him breathing at all. Only the soft, sharp, too even sound of my own. I should have sat up. I should have checked. I should have shone a flashlight in his face and laughed it off and told him to knock it off with the creepy sleep deprivation talk. Instead, I did the most human thing in the world. I turned my face into my sleeping bag. I told myself morning would make everything look smaller. I let the darkness press down on my eyes, and somewhere, not too far away, in the marrow-deep silence of the national park, something took a step closer. I don't know how long I slept. Minutes, hours. Time in the woods gets stretchy. It melts at the edges. But when I jolted awake again, it wasn't morning. It wasn't even close. The tent was still dark, that deep pitch black you only get miles from electricity. Cold had crept in through the floor, numbing my toes. My throat felt tight, like I'd been breathing wrong, and something was missing. It took my brain a few slow, confused seconds to understand what. The sound. The forest should have been humming with noise. Insects, wind, water, Brandon's freight train snoring. But the air was empty in a way that felt carved out. "Jason," I whispered, even though I was afraid to hear an answer. Silence. "Jason," I said again, louder, more silence. I reached out sideways, fumbling for where he should have been. My hand hit nothing but cold nylon. No sleeping bag, no body, just emptiness. My heartbeat thudded up into my throat and stayed there. I sat up slowly, too slowly, and unzipped the tent with fingers that felt like they belonged to someone else. The zipper teeth rasped in the dark. That tiny, metallic sound felt loud enough to get noticed by anything alive out there, or anything not alive. The flap opened. The forest was ink black, except for the faintest sheen of moonlight skimming the tops of the pines. The fire pit glowed a dying red, embers pulsing like a creature breathing in its sleep. Jason was nowhere. Not at the logs, not by the creek, not crouched in the shadows, not anywhere a sane person would be. But the woods didn't feel empty, not at all. It felt like someone had paused the world right before something stepped into view. Jason, I whispered into the dark again, barely moving my lips. Come on, man, don't screw with me. A twig snapped. Behind me, beyond the tent, my whole body locked up. I turned very slowly toward the sound, every nerve screaming, don't look, don't look, don't look. The trees stood still, tall, motionless, unbothered, but the dark between them wasn't. It wasn't moving, but it was aware, like something was standing just inside that darkness, just outside my sight, and deciding whether or not to step into the light. My breath fogged in the air, just one breath, because on the next inhale, something echoed me. A second breath, quiet, thin, not mine, right behind my left shoulder. I spun so fast, I nearly fell. Nothing there. But the breath came again. Not from a throat, not shaped by lungs. More like something mimicking the idea of breathing. And for a moment, just a flicker, I thought I saw a pale outline between the nearest trees. Not a person, not an animal. More like a shape that was trying to be both. Long arms, a head tilted at the wrong angle, shoulders too narrow, legs too still. Then it blinked out, like a light switching off. I stumbled backward into the tent, heart ricocheting around my ribs, and woke Brandon by accidentally landing on his foot. He sat up cursing. Dude, what the hell? Jason's gone, I hissed. He's not here. Brandon blinked at me through sleep-blurred eyes. Bathroom? No, gone. Gone. He's not anywhere. Kelly sat up too, pulling her hoodie tight around her shoulders. Tyler, calm down. He probably just... I heard something, I said, voice shaking despite every effort to hold it together. And I saw, I don't know, something, by the trees. Brandon rubbed his face. Sid and Nancy, I swear to God, okay, let's get the flashlights. We'll find him. Kelly grabbed her boots. He's probably just stretching his legs. Insomnia makes you wander sometimes. Not like this, I said. Tyler, he wasn't breathing. They both froze. What? Kelly whispered. In the tent, I said. When he talked to me, when he was sitting up, I didn't hear him breathe once. Brandon exhaled slowly. Let's not jump to conclusions, dude. He could have been holding his breath. You were half asleep. I didn't argue. Not because I believed him, but because the alternative meant admitting something much worse. Flashlights in hand, we stepped into the woods. The beam stretched only a few yards before the darkness ate it. The trees looked wrong closer together than before, trunks leaning inward like they'd grown curious. Jason, Brandon called. Hey, this isn't funny, man. Only our voices answered back. Then, a sound. Farther ahead, a soft, steady rhythm. Crunch, crunch, footsteps. Relief hit me for a second, until I noticed the timing. They were too even, too slow, too careful, like someone practicing the idea of walking. My skin crawled. Jason, Kelly whispered, lifting her flashlight. The footsteps stopped, abruptly, like someone froze mid-step. Brandon stepped ahead bravely, or stupidly. Hey, if that's you, I'm gonna punch you in the face for making us. A voice cut him off. Brandon, a whisper, from the trees. But it wasn't Jason's voice. It was his words, delivered in a monotone that was almost robotic, like someone repeating the shape of his name without knowing what it meant. Kelly grabbed my arm. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Jason?" Brandon said again, but quieter now. "Dude, come out?" Another whisper. Brandon, drawn out, wrong, like the rhythm was mismatched. Brandon's flashlight shook. "That's not him." We all took a step back. Then, a shape stepped between the trees. A human silhouette, tall, lanky, Jason-shaped. For half a heartbeat, my brain filled in the blanks, but then it tilted its head, not like a person would, more like a puppet whose strings had been pulled at the wrong angle. The flashlight beams trembled across its shape, and the shadows around it rippled, as if the darkness was breathing with it, or for it. "Jason," Kelly whispered again, already knowing the answer. The shape twitched, jerked, like someone was learning how joints worked. Then it spoke, and every hair on my body rose. "Didn't sleep," it said. Just that. But the voice was wrong. Too flat, too empty, too copied. Brandon grabbed my sleeve. "Run." We did. We didn't think. We didn't shout. We didn't look back. We just ran. Branches clawed at our clothes. Roots tried to trip us. The forest itself felt like it was leaning in, trying to hear our hearts pounding. When we burst into camp again, Kelly was crying. Brandon was cursing under his breath. I turned, just once, just for a second, and saw the trees behind us bend inward, as if something tall was moving through them, quietly, patiently, not rushing, because it knew we weren't going anywhere. "Get in the tent," Brandon hissed. "No," I snapped. "If something's out here with us, we need shelter." "That isn't shelter." Kelly grabbed both of us. Stop, we need to think." But thinking wasn't happening. Not now. Not with Jason gone. Not with something wearing his shape. Not with the forest listening. Behind us, a soft, slow exhale moved through the trees. Not wind, not human. Something tasting the air. Something that had waited for Jason to fall asleep, and then found nothing to take. So it came looking for us instead. That's where I'll stop for now, because the next part is where things stopped being just wrong and started being impossible. If this is my last time telling this, I want it told right. So listen carefully, because everything that happened next didn't feel fast. It felt inevitable. We didn't hide in the tent. Even Brandon wasn't that stupid anymore. Instead, we grabbed what we could, 3 backpacks, a flashlight each, and bolted toward the ranger trail. It was only a mile away. One straight path. One chance to get out of the forest's throat. "It's just ahead," Brandon said, breathless, his voice cracking in a way I'd never heard from him before. "Just keep moving. Don't stop. Don't." "Shh," Kelly whispered violently. "Stop talking like that thing can't hear you." She was right. Because the forest had changed. The air wasn't just cold, it was thin now, like something was breathing it ahead of us, pulling it out of our lungs. The trees grew denser, leaning in, branches crossing over the path like claws, and the sound behind us, not just footsteps, multiple, soft, light, uneven, learning. Brandon looked back once, just once, and his face drained so fast I thought he was going to collapse. "Don't look," he whispered. "Tyler, don't." Too late. I turned, and I saw Jason, or what used to be Jason, or what was wearing him now. It followed 30 feet behind us, keeping perfect pace. But it wasn't running. It wasn't walking. It was moving, like shadows peeling themselves off trees. Like the dark had remembered a shape. His body looked wrong. His limbs were too loose. His shoulders too stiff. His mouth slightly open, like he was about to speak but didn't know how. And his eyes, God, his eyes weren't open. They were drawn on, like shadows, pretending to be eyes. Kelly's hand clamped over her mouth. She was shaking so badly, her flashlight beam jittered across the trees like a strobe. "Jason," she whispered. Oh God, Jason." "It's not him," I said. "Don't talk to it. Don't. Too late." because its head twitched. And then something answered her. Kelly, not just monotone, not just wrong, but layered, like dozens of voices trying to sync together, like an entire forest whispering through one half-dead throat. Kelly stumbled backward. No, 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 run, run! We ran. Branches whipped our arms. Roots clawed at our ankles. The dark moved with us, around us, past us, like something enormous was shifting beneath the soil. Brandon was ahead now, flashlight swinging wildly. I see the post. I see the trail marker. I didn't look behind us. I couldn't. My brain had entered this animal survival state where all I could process was movement and pain and the pounding of my heart like a war drum. The trail marker came into view, a wooden post with a little green sign, pointing toward the ranger station. Go, Brandon shouted. Go, go. Kelly screamed, not a startled scream, a ripping one-soul-out scream. I spun around and saw the shadow thing between us and her. No shape, no edges, just the suggestion of a body, like darkness made flesh. Kelly was backed against a tree, eyes wide, breath shaking out in hot clouds that vanished too fast. Don't touch her, I yelled. The thing turned its head, a slow, awful rotation, like it had learned the movement from dissection notes. And then it whispered, "Don't touch her," repeating my voice. Perfectly. Kelly sobbed. Brandon grabbed my arm. "We can circle around. Come on, come on." We sprinted sideways, deeper into the woods, looping around to get behind the thing. The trees creaked overhead, shifting, bending, listening. Kelly stumbled into view between trunks, and then something stepped behind her. Jason, or what was left of him. He leaned close to her ear, head tilted too far sideways. Kelly didn't scream. She froze, like prey, like sleep paralysis standing up. "Don't you touch her," Brandon bellowed, charging. I grabbed him. "Brandon, no, don't touch it." But he ripped free and lunged, and his body went rigid, like he'd hit a wall. Then he dropped, lights out, like something had reached into his head and turned the switch. Kelly collapsed to her knees. Jason things straightened. And then, for the first time, it smiled. Too wide, too thin, stretched at the corners like a child drawing a mouth on paper. Then, it spoke, not in Jason's voice, not in mine, in all of ours at once. "Didn't sleep." Kelly's scream ripped through the trees. I grabbed Brandon and hauled him up. He was limp, dead weight, breathing but slow, shallow. Kelly clung to my jacket, sobbing, shaking violently, her nails cutting into my arm. "We can't," she gasped. "We can't outrun it. We can't." "We don't have to outrun it," I said. My voice was shaking, but the words felt hard. "We just have to get out of the woods." Behind us, the forest exhaled, a long, hungry sound. We ran until the ground went from soft earth to gravel, until gravel turned to asphalt, until the tree line ended behind us with a sharp, invisible edge, where nature stopped and human territory began. And the thing, it didn't follow. It stood just behind the tree line, watching. Its shape flickered, stretching taller, then smaller, then wider, like it was trying on different forms. The forest around it bent inward, like it was part of the trees themselves. A single breath rolled across the branches. Not wind, a promise. Kelly clutched my arm. Brandon stirred weakly in my grip. The creature raised one long, narrow hand, palm facing us, not waving, mimicking, copying a gesture it didn't understand. I didn't move. Couldn't. Kelly whispered, "Tyler, what does it want?" I swallowed hard. My voice came out hollow. "It feeds on sleeplessness." Kelly shuddered. "So it hunts tired people?" "No," I said quietly. The thing tilted its head again. "No," she whispered. "It makes them tired." Kelly's breath hitched. Behind us, Brandon said one groggy word, "Jason?" And the creature moved, just a flicker, just a tilt, just enough to show it had heard him. Then it stepped backward into the trees and vanished. We got help. Brandon woke up fully. Kelly never stepped foot in a forest again. Jason was never found. But some nights, late, deep, when I'm alone, there's a knock on my window. Soft, light, polite, and a voice that sounds almost like mine whispers, "Tyler, you awake?" That's why I'm telling you this now. Because if I stop talking, if I stop remembering, if I stop watching my windows, I'll fall asleep. And in this world, in these woods, sleep is a door, and something ancient is waiting on the other side, listening, hungry, learning your name,